What's up, guys? Just in the studio jamming out, playing with two super fun toys, Traktor and Maschine, bringing together the world of production and production style with the world of DJing. Now, why in the world would you want to do this? Because most of us have probably gotten a little bit bored with just DJing in songs. Maschine allows you to play synthesis, drums, patterns, and actually really play musically in your set in a very, very interesting way. So in today's tutorial, we're going to talk about three things. Number one, why would you even want to do this? Number two, exactly how to do it. We'll go through step-by-step syncing up Maschine with Traktor. And then finally, three, a couple of simple tips to make it super fun and make it really interesting in a musical context. All right, so step one, why would you actually want to do this? Well, for starters, you can play really interesting drum patterns totally in sync with your Traktor set. So this is pretty fun because I don't have to be a professional finger drummer, but I can still play really interesting patterns that are totally in sync with Traktor. I can change the patterns up so they repeat at different intervals. And do all kinds of crazy things. I can even play synthesizers and play them perfectly in key with the song that's playing. For example, this bass line is in Traktor, and so I know that it's in the key of G minor. And I've gone ahead and set up my pad so that the lower pad is also in G sharp. Now, if I play a minor scale, everything's going to be in key, and this is my root key. Of course, because it's a DAW, I could even record something and just keep that pattern going and go back and modify it. So now I can create a totally unique musical story that is unconstrained and only limited by my musical imagination. So that's why you might want to do something like this. In this case, syncing up Maschine, which contains synthesizers and drum sounds, up with Traktor. Now, how do you actually do it? Well, it's relatively simple. What we're going to do is connect two critical pieces. Number one, inside of a single computer, we're going to virtually send a MIDI signal from Traktor to the Maschine software and sync them up. Then we're going to send the audio out of the Maschine software into my mixer so I can mix the audio from Traktor and Maschine together. So let's go ahead and connect Traktor to Maschine. So Maschine is slaved to Traktor, and if you change the tempo in Traktor, the tempo in Maschine will also change. And if you play drums or synthesizers that have a repeating pattern, those patterns will be in sync with the songs that you play in Traktor. Here's what we do. First thing, we need to set up a MIDI output. By clicking in the preferences inside of Traktor, we can add a generic MIDI port. Let's go ahead and send this out of the Traktor virtual output. That's virtual because it's only inside of the computer, and we'll set the import to none. That's going to go ahead and get our MIDI routing started. Let's receive then in Maschine that same thing. You'll want to go into Audio and MIDI settings. Under MIDI, make sure that the Traktor virtual output is set to on. Make sure all the other inputs are set to off. This is going to go ahead and create the MIDI connection. Now let's make sure the Maschine will slave to Traktor. Go ahead and make sure sync to external MIDI clock is on. That will make Maschine listen to Traktor for a MIDI clock. Next, we'll want to make sure Traktor's sending a MIDI clock. It's pretty simple. Just hit this play button and it's going to go ahead and start sending clock. If we go over to Maschine, you'll see that it started playing. Go back to Traktor, unclick that, Maschine would have stopped. So now Traktor is driving Maschine. which is what we want. One time you might want to send over a sync, which is going to sync the start of this sequence. So Maschine has, like these 16 buttons, a 16 count sequence. And if you want that sequence to start in time, just re-hit the sync button just before the 1. Now, these two things should be totally in sync. The next thing we want to do is make sure that the sync between Maschine and Traktor is actually tight. Here we're going to use a little trick that involves metronomes. This tick is the metronome that's giving us an audible reference of what Traktor's clock is actually doing. We can go into Maschine and turn on his click as well, right here, and listen to the two and their relationship to each other. Now, this is where our DJ beat matching skills actually come into play, and I can already tell you that those two things do not sound very in sync. Under Preferences, you'll see this MIDI offset slave adjustment. What you'll want to do is adjust this so the two are perfectly in sync. That sounds pretty good to me. Let's listen to how it actually works. Let's start a track. This track is synced up to the master clock, and Maschine is also synced up to the master clock. So if we go into our little pattern, turn on note repeat, we've got it. Sounds really good. Now, we can also apply that same note repeat to synthesizers. I'll go in here, I've got a synthesizer loaded up here, I think. Turn on note repeat. Of course, if we want to record that, we can. And then we can further modify that sound. And clear all that. So there we have it. We've got Maschine and Traktor playing perfectly in time. I'm not going to go into a lot of details on all the different things you can do with Maschine. It's worth mentioning that I'm also running Complete. So what that means is that I can run the entire suite of Native Instruments synthesizers inside of Maschine. Massive, reactor, which gives me a lot of power. Okay, so 2 tips on how you can make Maschine really fun to play with Traktor. 2 very simple things. The first, of course, you've already seen, it's this note repeat feature. If you have it off, you just need to play the pads like traditional pads. And that means you kind of need to be pretty good at drumming. Which I'm okay, but it's not that much fun live. What's a lot of fun live is turning on note repeat by holding down note repeat and then pressing this button up here that locks that repeat. Now I can play each of these pads and they're going to repeat at whatever interval I've got set here. And it's really fun because these pads are actually pressure sensitive, so you can do these nice sweeps and even record that. So let's go ahead and clear that. So that's trick number 1. Go ahead and enable note repeat hold so you can use the pads to play simple little drum patterns without needing to play them out yourself. Let's turn that off and go to the second tip. If we go back to Traktor, you will see that in most of our songs, now that Traktor has key detection available to you, you'll actually have the true root key of the song. It's relatively accurate, but good enough for a good starter. Now, this particular song that we had in Deck B here is called T-Bone, and if we look here, T-Bone is actually in the key of G sharp. Now what I can do, if we go back to that synth that we were playing with, is change the pads so that the root note in the lower corner matches the song that's playing. You can do that pretty simply by just holding down pad mode and changing with a semitone which note is in the lower hand quadrant. So I'll just scroll through until it actually shows G sharp. There we go, G sharp. Now I know that lower note is going to match the song I'm playing. We'll turn note repeat back on, and that should be the one or the tonic of the song that's playing. So as you can tell, that's actually a ton of fun, and it's easy enough and safe enough that you could totally pull this out in the middle of a DJ set and really add your own personal musical flavor to any mix that you're doing and really wow the crowd and have a lot of fun at the same time doing it. So that, my friends, is pretty much it. It's how you sync up Maschine with Traktor and a couple ways to make it super fun. For more tips, tricks, reviews, and so much more, please visit us on the web at djtechtools.com.